So, welcome to another episode of Beta Talk. I'd like to thank my season's sponsors who are Intergas Heating Solutions. And we've just released the first episode where we talked all about their cylinder, which is a fantastic hot water cylinder that's been developed for heat pump industry. And some of the fantastic heat pump engineers I know are now starting to think about using that. So it was a great episode, and I'll put the link for that first episode in the show notes. Today, my guest is my friend Mike Costain. Now, if you're a manufacturer in this wonderful world of plumbing and heating, you'll probably know who Mike Costain is because he's the MD of Lyrical Communications who run the Installer Show. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Installer Show, but Mike's had a heat pump put in, and he contacted me a while back, said, Nathan, can you recommend me an engineer? And a lot of people sort of do that, and I recommend them. And so we're going to chat about his little heat pump install he's had. So how are you, Mike? How are you getting on? Busy, I reckon.
Yeah, indeed. Not long until the installer show. So yeah, everyone's very excited here in the office. But yeah, 4 weeks to go, and then we'll all be having a good time at the NEC.
We do indeed. So you've had this heat pump installation. Now, did you have it so you could actually be running it through the winter we've just passed through, so you could get a sort of a good feel?
Yeah. So we when did we have our heat pump installed? Yeah, we about a year. Yeah, it's a year actually. It is a year because I've just had my annual service. So yeah, we use Solaris as the installer, and we have a Valent product. So yeah, we're new to the heat pump scene, as it were, but very happy with it. The family are delighted and happy and warm, and that's the main thing.
That is the main thing because you got kids. I think your kids are older than mine, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah. So they're quite vocal about all that sort of thing. And yeah, we so yeah, the previous system was gas boiler. Um, wasn't really fit for purpose. So my eldest daughter's bedroom at the top of the house was bloody freezing. It isn't anymore. So if one of the things that anyone wants, is a warm house, we've got one.
So what made you decide to get? I mean, obviously you are completely immersed in this industry. You're surrounded by heat pump manufacturers and engineers. Is that what made you sort of think, right, I'll get one? Or
Yeah, yeah, we had some work done on the back of the house, and so it was quite an upheaval. We moved out for a few months, and yeah, it felt like the right thing to do. We were going for underfloor heating. The obviously with the sort of refurb and redesign, a bit of a redesign of the back of the house, that gave us an opportunity of yeah, changing the system, creating a more better insulated property, and gave us the opportunity, yeah, of basically redoing the whole heating system, and this felt right. And In spite of the builders' concerns that these things don't work, they do. So yeah, no. So I was quite adamant that we were gonna get a heat pump. We got the Solaris guys came round. They they resized everything, all that sort of stuff. Did and have redone the whole house. And yeah, it's working. I mean, I sat in our kitchen with the builder and told him we were going to have a heat pump installed. And the conversation went as follows. I'm going to get a heat pump installed. Oh, I wouldn't do that. They don't work. And I said, well, they do. And then he said, no, they don't. And I said, well, we could be here for like bloody months going on about this. Um, and yeah, in spite of his concerns, yeah, and skepticism, yeah, it is all working.
now, you and I have discussed this because usually when you and I meet up, it's over a lovely meal, isn't it? And obviously we're
Yeah,
doing this over Zoom. And you said this to me about this because obviously you were having your whole house renovated. There's some builders there, and
yeah,
now do you think that's a challenge? So obviously we talk about the challenge of, let's say, engineers. engineers transitioning from gas to heat pumps and etc. But you've kind of picked up on a point there that there's a lot of other trades involved sometimes when you're in your house, as it were. And if it wasn't for the fact that you kind of know quite a bit about this technology, someone else who would have had a builder say to them, these things don't work, that would have actually made that customer probably not get a heat pump, wouldn't it?
Well, it does. I mean, I was adamant, and but the builder who's technically excellent was, but he's been doing this for 30 years, and he's as most of us are in life. We're all set in our ways a little bit, and he didn't understand anything but gas. He wasn't interested in understanding anything but gas, and he was a bit frightened of it. And I think, I think Solaris have done a fantastic job. I do think the one thing that they and others could learn is the importance of changing the view of the people that influence the consumers' choices. And as you said, there's lots of tradespeople who are working together. So we had within in the house, obviously the builder and all their guys who were not convinced that heat pumps work. I don't know whether they read the Daily Mail or something. I don't know, maybe. Um, um, and and the electrician um, who 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 actually messaged me about 3 or 4 months ago. I was talking to him about a different job, and he said, "Oh, is your heat pump working?" I said, "Yeah, it is working. It's working really well, thank you." And he was like, "Oh, right, great, that's really good. I'm really pleased. I didn't think it would do." And that's an electrician, and the guy was excellent. Brilliant at what he did. But was, yeah, scared of the new technology. And he's not even new technology, isn't it? I mean, you talk about that a lot. It's
Yeah.
not new technology,
Yeah.
but there's a fear of the unknown, isn't there?
It's a really interesting piece, this, isn't it? Because obviously, if we're going into a transition and we want to encourage people, because I get this as well. I mean, my some of my friends will often say to me, "Yo, I had an electrician round." It's funny enough; it seems to be electricians. I had an electrician round, and uh, sometimes these electricians know me because I grew up in a kind of a small area in Norfolk, and they might say, "Look, how's Nathan getting on? What's he doing?" And so my friend will say, "Oh, he's involved with heat pumps and heating," which I've been involved in all my life. But these are they immediately say these things don't work though, and they say it in a very convincing manner, so that when I then go and have a meal with my friend, they're like, "Are you sure they work, Nathan?" I'm like, "Crikey!" So it's a very big problem. I don't know how we solve that one because builders do work hand in hand, obviously, with plumbers and heating engineers quite often, but not to the point, I suppose, where they're reading all the same. They don't have to read all the updates we have to read, for instance, and stuff like that. So how do we get through the message to them that they work is quite an interesting one.
Well, it is. I mean, and you're right. The technicalities of it. Our builder did not need to know, but it was the commu. It was. I think if the communication, if that's part of the communication message from the renewable energy installer or the heat pump installer, and actually part of their job, which isn't necessarily their job, but perhaps should be, is to, if you're involved in a project, try and make sure that the other people who are involved in that project understand what the devil you're doing.
Mm.
Because when my builder goes to someone else's house, he'll still, if they said to him, "Oh, I'm going to put," someone said to him he's going to put a heat pump in, he would still turn around and say, "No, gas is best." So that person will continue to do that until the end of time,
What
unless someone sits down with him and explains it.
what about now though? I mean, has your builder come round to it now?
No, no, yeah, well, that's probably unfair. No, he's not, and I don't think necessarily I would convince him because, as you well know, I'm not a heating engineer, and I'm not a heat pump installer. But if someone had walked him through the technicalities of it, even a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation, this is why, this is what's going on. The plant room in our house is a thing of beauty. It is it is a beautiful thing, and I don't understand all the elements of it, but it looks bloody brilliant. And as I said, it is from an output point of view, it works a treat. And if someone had had the time to talk to the builder about what they were doing, maybe at the end of the project even, I think he might have gone away and thought, oh yeah, I get it now. Maybe I would recommend it to my clients. I, the, the electrician and the builder, anything that was at all remotely close to them having to do work close to these heat pumps, they were scared of. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. And as I said, this guy is technically brilliant. The builder was brilliant, but they've just got the fear. Anyway, there you go. I don't know. I don't understand.
I might have a sort.
There's work to do, Nathan.
It's very interesting. I mean, it was Dan Large from Solaris who I recommended to do your job. I'll have a check because Dan was recently on the show, actually, very recently, and I'll have a because obviously it's for a renewable, heat pump company. It makes sense if they can convince some of the sort of builders, developers in their area, because obviously the builders, when they get new clients, say, "Well, I know a really great chap who can put a heat pump system in because they do work." So that communication piece is quite vital between them two trades, isn't it?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. It is. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it will work. I mean, I met Dan. Dan came down to to our property, and he's a good guy. You can tell why he's got a good business. He's a clever chap, and and maybe it's just maybe it's just if he sat in front of the builder, he would have convinced him because you could tell because the way that Dan communicates, so he would have got it. And maybe I should have pushed more for that. To that.
Well, you're a busy man, Mike. I mean, but maybe you might start up another show, a builder show.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not even that. It's just as I said, if everyone becomes a little bit more comfortable and confident about technology changes, then the world will be a better place, won't it?
Hmm. Talking about the show, what sort of exciting things have we got? I mean, you and I both observe it from quite a nice little vantage point, don't we? I mean, obviously, you're the MD of the show, so over the years, we've sort of seen a lot more heat pump manufacturers exhibit there, haven't we? That seems to have been a thing that sort of definitely last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you struggle to find many boilers at the installer show. Technology-wise, yeah. The push for more renewables, is front and center at the show. The Valence Worcester Bosches um, of this world, obviously, doing big things. Product launches from Grundfos. Um, I mean, there's loads of product launches going on, but Grundfos have got a big one on. I think it's day one of the show. To a big unveiling. Um, so yeah, lots of stuff for the HVAC world. Um, More on sort of refrigeration. There's more on the cooling side, both mainly from a resi point of view, but we're seeing more interest from the F-gas installer moving into the heating side, and that then is reflected with product portfolios from the Daikyns and Mitsubishis of this world who'll be showing a broader range perhaps than they might have done a couple of years ago. Um, so yeah, I mean there's lots more exhibitors. There'll be lots more visitors, and there's I don't know 250, 300 speakers I think there are this year. So it's a big old program. Oh, we're building a house as well.
You are building a house, and funny enough, that house, I think, if I got this right, is then coming to Ipswich University, is it?
Well, possibly. There's a at some point. What the plan is evolving. I think that what we will see is that it will go to our elemental event in London in November, and then probably slightly refitted out and come back to install a show in 26, and then it will go to a more permanent home.
Just for the listeners, just describe what Elemental is going to be because this is a new thing, is it? This is in November as well. Is it at
Yeah,
Birmingham as well, or
no, no,
London?
London,
London
London.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so the elemental event it runs at XL in November, 2 days. Um, and the audience, slightly different audience, so housing associations, local authorities, sort of heavy commercial property owners, touching on industrial, so facilities managers, architects, that sort of audience. Um, been really well received by the supplier world. Advisory Council have been really helpful in helping to shape the direction of the show. There's definitely an opportunity in London. You know, the UK event space for the sort of energy market is not very well served, I don't think. Um, Obviously, Install the Show is providing a more hands-on approach in Birmingham, and this will be, yeah, um, slightly different feel to Install the Show. More content heavy. Sibsy are heavily involved. And the Build to Perform event now is going to be part of the Elemental show. So, yeah, lots going on.
So I think you did the Elemental show, kind of, or the brains behind it, or the thinker behind it, came around, and then we had COVID, didn't we?
We did.
So it didn't kind of take off that in that first sort of year, I don't think, did it?
No, that's right. Yeah, we yeah, a great time to launch an event. We launched it for November 2020. Obviously, it didn't happen. But it became a media brand, or it has become a media brand, online digital brand. And therefore we built an audience and a following. So it was a natural thing to do to then resurrect the idea of face-to-face event. And as I said, London certainly doesn't host anything of really any significance in this space. So yeah, we're providing something that yeah that is required, I think. And from a government point of view, policy perspective, you know, it will be London. London is the place.
Mm. I mean, you mentioned local authorities. I'm doing something with some local authorities at the installer show, but in a bit of a safe space. So I've got a guest speaker from Bristol City Council. I'm going to do a bit of a lunch and learn with them,
Yeah,
and then we're going to listen to some of the local authorities about what their sort of pain points are, the challenges, and of course it'll be a good little precursor for some of the
yeah,
local authorities to then go to the elemental show in November.
yeah,
So I'm looking forward to that. It's coming back to your heat pump system. Obviously, you sound like you're doing lots of renovation. Did you have to change radiators, or is it something you were going to be doing anything anyway? Or you had underfloor heating? You said put in. Is it?
yeah, yeah. We did change. We did do a radiator change. We didn't. That wasn't. We didn't necessarily want to do that, but it was the right thing to do. Sizing, etc. And we got some advice from the guys at Solaris, which was really helpful about what was fit for purpose for certain parts of the house. So that was important. I must admit, one of the radiators that I chose, my wife thinks is hideously ugly. So I'm still in the doghouse about that one. But aside from that, yeah, resizing and then underfloor in the and the kitchen and utility, which yeah it works a treat.
What is it? A designer radiator or something?
No, it's not. It's a big box.
That was a.
That was the point. It's difficult to hide. I asked when it was being installed. I asked my eldest daughter, who's 20, and she was like, "Do you think Mum will like this?" God, no, she won't. So yeah, I won't. So yeah. Anyway, aside from that, it's all good.
Brilliant. And are you going to go all electric? So obviously, like I say, you're surrounded by all sorts of manufacturers. That's your day job. Are you going to sort of have things like batteries and solar panels and home
Yeah,
energy management systems, and
yeah. So one of the probably mistakes on our side was not to get to link all this. So EV and battery is next on the list, but the sensible thing would have been to do it all at the same time, and for whatever reason we didn't. And but yeah, that's next. That's sort of next on the agenda. Solar would be my choice. Again, you could tell who runs the house. Wife's not a massive fan of the solar. The look and aesthetics. But yeah, I think that's where we should go. Getting it all fully integrated and all systems connected would make a lot of sense.
mm, tough, tough for the average person. I mean, obviously there's people out there that really like the idea of complete full electric systems in their home, but I mean, massive cost for
No,
lots of
no,
people, is
it's
it? The whole thing, and I suppose it then comes down to what do they choose first? I mean, a lot of people have been choosing solar PV first. Um, and but I suppose that's going back to 10 years ago. People were starting to do PV, weren't they? And obviously now that there's this more of a zeitgeist around heat pumps, and people are starting to understand what they are, that they can heat. Well, we're still trying to convince your builder, it sounds like, but
true.
people understand that they do work in homes. And do you, sort of, from a customer perspective? I mean, like I say, I know Dan, and I know he's good. That's why I recommended to you. Have you got to play about with the system? Because some of the things concerns consumers have is, well, how do I control it? Will I muck up the controls? Or, I mean, are you a tinkerer? Do you like to tinker around with controls?
It's really good question. So when we first got the system, I'm going back to my wife again. I don't know. I'm not sure I do anything at home. Anyway, because you go back to being used to having a gas boiler. What do you do with a gas boiler? When it's cold or when you're not quite happy, you crank it up. And so there's been a little bit of a behavioural change that we've all gone through, understanding that that's not how these things work. And that took a little bit of time, and a little bit of persuasion from my point of view. Um, I'm not a tinkerer. I'll trust the process and trust the system, and because I have a happy, the kids are happy and not complaining that it's cold. You know, then my argument would be why are we tinkering and why are we changing? Um, and So we've got into it. We leave the system to do it, and then the fact that it alerts you if there's something gone wrong, and then Solaris will come in, and if there's not anything goes wrong necessarily, but if there's an alert on the system, that is that's a good thing. We've got a communication thing then, and then annual service comes up, and I must admit I was not one necessarily for doing an annual service on the gas boiler for whatever reason, but wrongly. But because we've invested, in this, it feels like we'd be mad not to,
Mm.
service it properly. And again, and that's something that I think it'd be interesting to see over the course of the next few years around that maintenance and servicing of heat pumps. Who 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 goes for that opportunity, because there is an opportunity there, because at the moment it feels like the narrative, the discussion is all about installation, and it's not about maintenance and service.
Good point. Yeah, it's a very interesting point actually, and there's some really sort of interesting things that are happening in the industry around that. I mean, for instance, people like Neebe have brought on board British Gas to help do their maintenance work. So, from someone like myself that's been in the industry a long time, that's quite interesting how that's all panning out, and because we've not sort of reached this point yet where loads of people have them in, and then what happens when they start going wrong? Because you need the right sort of people, because installation is kind of a different thing. You can get some, I'm seeing engineers that are really really they're loving all the science now behind it. So they're designing good systems. They know how to install a good system. But if they were riding around in their van and they come across a unit that they don't particularly know are making a model and they've been asked to fix it, that's when you might get issues. And this is where some of the old timers that got the experience of seeing different makes and models, a bit like the boilers, they can rectify the solution, get it working again, rather than what was going on in the boiler world. You need a new boiler, love, because that used to go on. Well, it still goes on, and you don't really want that going on in the heat pump world as much, I'd argue. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, the other good thing that they've done. So a couple of times, um, Solaris, rather than doing a call out, we did a phone call, 5 minute, walked me through what I needed to do, tweak here, do this, that, and the other, and everything was fine. And again, I think that's it's a you know, because it's tech driven, that is the sort of thing that people should be doing. And saves people jumping in the car for a 10-minute call out.
mm. I might hook you up. So the episode I've just released was with a company called Havenwise, very clever people, who've developed this API that works very well with Valence actually. And one of the sort of really well-known Valent customers, Mick Wall, who writes this wonderful blog, does that smart energy thing for Octopus. He's now got one, and it actually optimizes it even further. And you don't have to get involved in it. Not being a tinkler, don't have to get involved in it at all. But it will also do things like monitor time of use tariffs. So it can do that, but it can actually make your comfort level even better than the actual Valent controls can.
Yeah.
Um, because it's looking at all sorts of parameters all the time, and I'll hook you up with them guys. The Going back to the show, who are the main speakers? Just so the people listening to the audience, we've got a few people from government this time. Well, we did have that last year, actually, didn't we?
No, we have with the Department of Energy and Net
Let,
Zero.
yeah, energy security, net zero.
DESNES. Yeah, energy security. Net Zero. Yeah, actually, much more involved this year, so that's really
Mm.
good. Which is excellent. Yeah, we've got Chris Skidmore coming back.
Hmm.
Um, Grant Shapps is coming along as well. So that'll be interesting to get his view of the world. Um, yeah, the heat, the heat, the great and the good from the heating and plumbing and renewable sector are involved, including your good self, Nathan, obviously. Um, on the sort of slightly more or lighter side, Dara O'Brien
Yeah,
is doing a session on the Wednesday, which will be a mixture of science and a bit of comedy, I would have thought. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
I think he's got a PhD. I think he studied thermodynamics at
yeah,
PhD kind of level.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he kind of gets it.
No, exactly. You won't want to get in an argument with him. He's a clever chap. Yeah, so yeah, but yeah, all good on that score. We've got a few of the usual the usual sporting celebrities. Nicola Adams, boxer,
Mm.
Freddie Lundberg, if you like football, Arsenal circa whenever it was, 1990s, 2000s. Um, so celebrity, government, bit of comedy, a lot of technical. Um, yeah, there's lots to do and lots to listen to.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you ever get up on a panel, do you? Or
No,
do why not?
why? Because
Well, you're
because he wants
too busy
he
running
wants
it.
he wants well he wants to listen to me. I'm not. Our job is to bring everyone together. Our job is to facilitate and make sure that we run an event that our audience values and enjoys. I'm not a heating engineer. I'm not a renewable energy installer. Or a kitchen fitter or whatever it may be. Um, But I think we understand the way that the jigsaw puzzle of the sector works, and we can invite the right sorts of people to talk about it. Um, and and everyone else has got more interesting things to say than I have anyway, so it's fine. Um,
Well,
yeah.
and also the other thing we should talk about is it's going to. Well, I think it is. It's going to New York, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. The installer show is world domination awaits. Yeah, we've launched Installer Show New York, which will run March 2026, and that'll be an annual event. Runs alongside a sister event that our parent company are involved in called New York Build.
Mm.
So we'll bring we'll bring the vibe from the installer show in Birmingham to New York. There again, from an events point of view, the US isn't awash with events in this space,
Oh, right.
which is quite interesting. There's a big audience out there. Installer Show's brand is well respected now globally, and yeah, the support has been pretty good. We're also looking at a pavilion in Melbourne to run alongside Melbourne Build. And then, yeah, maybe Chicago, maybe Texas. I don't know. We'll see.
Crikey, that is world domination. It's interesting, isn't it, is that the American you were saying there's not so much of an event space around that this particular energy piece because I mean they have events for everything at well especially out in Vegas.
No, they do. And there is a big one out there, but it moves around the country, and the US is a big place.
Yeah,
I was there. I went to AHR in February or March, in Orlando this year. Big show. It's a big,
yeah,
it's a big show. It's well respected, but it moves around. It moves.
it
It's
does,
in
doesn't it?
Vegas. It's in Vegas next year. Vegas to New York is it's a long way. And there's a lot of people in the US, and yeah, I think it's interesting the feedback from the companies who like what they see at Installer Show at the NEC. They are interested in what we're doing um, in New York, and they're supporting it. So
Did
good.
you go to Ish that's just been and gone in
I
Germany?
did go to, I did go to it. Yeah.
Because that is big, isn't it?
That is
Would you?
that's the big one, and
Is it too
I
big?
suppose
Can you be too big in these sort of events?
I suppose it's like you probably, to an extent, you probably can be. I think, but it's a similar to having a big party, isn't it? Some people like an intimate gathering,
Mm,
and some people like big gatherings. I think I think events can grow as long as they still hold that they understand that there needs to be something for everyone because not everyone likes those huge gatherings. So if there's more intimate events that are taking place when when those big shows are going on, then you have that intimate feel. They have that smaller feel, but it's just part of a bigger show. Um, yeah, I mean, issues monstrous. But one thing I do think is that it 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 highlights the importance of this industry, and scale brings you that,
right.
and that's one of the reasons why we think the growth of the installer show is important as long as we stick to the principles of why we're doing what we're doing, and we provide a proposition that people like to go and listen to stuff, see their mates, meet new people, have a bit of social, have a bit of technical. If we can keep growing this, it's a good thing for this industry because it puts it more on the map,
Yeah,
and the sector's bloody important,
yeah,
and it doesn't champion itself enough,
yeah.
and that's one of the things that we hopefully can help with as the show grows.
Does media get involved? Like I'm talking like mainstream TV media. Do they start to want to be involved
Well,
in
at
things?
least exactly, and it, it, when you are, when we were at the Rico in Coventry, it's quite difficult to get, mainstream media attention when you are a little event in a niche venue. We are not a little event in a niche venue now. So going back to government involvement. We had government involvement last year. That's built. I think one of the things, the next stage, and it might not happen for this year, but it should certainly happen for the following year, is that mainstream media involvement. Because, you read the Telegraph, or you read the Mail, or you read the Guardian, they'll all have a different view of what we're talking about, but they're all interested in it.
Mm,
Sunday Times talks about it.
mm,
It's a big sector, it's a big market, and it affects us all. So, yeah, that's on the list of things that we should be doing more with around, the nationals and the TV and all that sort of stuff.
mm. You can pitch them a little cat and say, look, well, all your officers have got heat pumps in because my family have worked in a lot of the BBC stuff, putting it in. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because it is such a big sector. You'd think that's sort of something they'd be interested in. Um,
Yeah,
well,
but yeah, it's one of those things that um, event organizers don't necessarily do as well as they possibly could do, and we're probably guilty of that. Of all the things to try and get right, it's probably not at the top of the list, and and part of that is because it doesn't drive more visitors necessarily. It's good PR,
mm.
but we should be doing that. That should that it helps everyone as well if we got them involved.
It's interesting, Grant Chaps. I've just read something as I got in today. I just read something about Grant Chaps. Apparently, he said he's never had a heat pump in his own house because it's built in the 30s. It's a bit small, and I mean, I haven't fact checked this, and apparently he said it would be a bit like bolting a Rolls Royce engine onto a shopping trolley if I had a heat pump in my own home.
I think that is the quote. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm,
Well, you can ask him.
maybe I should have a chat with him.
I
The
think you should.
the other thing, I mean, a lot of the time when I speak on my podcast, I talk about the UK market as being perhaps the largest, most complex sort of market in Europe. So, I mean, do you, as an event organizer, because what I say is basically anyone that manufactures heating equipment in Europe tends to try and sell it into our market in the UK. I mean,
Yeah.
is that something you kind of notice? Because we got, you see all the brands there and all the, whether it's boiler manufacturers, whether it's all the bits and pieces that we have on the heating systems. I mean, would you say we have got the sort of largest market in Europe for all the different manufacturers wanting to sort of sell stuff here?
I think it's an attractive market.
Mm,
We are we are seeing, if you take the heat pump example or solar example, there's masses of opportunity for manufacturers in the UK because we're quite behind where Germany is or whatever it may be. If you travel around Germany, the you see more solar. You just do. Um, and obviously heat pumps have been, they're not, there's probably not many builders that are scared of them in Germany, but and so therefore it is an attractive market. As we've said, it's the number of heat pumps being installed in the UK is not is not enormous at the moment, but it's growing, and the manufacturers see that, and yeah, and so yeah, they are finding it. It's an attractive place to do business. We're seeing more international brands coming into the UK market and using Installer Show as an opportunity to test their tech. So they might be, heavily involved in the Italian market and want to open an office in the UK. But so seeing a bit of that happening now as well.
and you also had some Chinese manufacturers there last year as well, didn't you? So they've spotted the show as an opportunity, haven't they?
Yeah, no, they have. I think one of the things that that we've all that we as the event organizers need to be mindful of is the mix of suppliers, and ish have a really broad mix. And we need to do that as well. I think we also need to be careful that we make sure that the products are certification, um, and the like, and that we need to have an eye on that.
That
Um,
must be hard for you guys, though, isn't it?
yeah, no, it is tricky, but if we're thinking about it, then you can usually make things better.
Right.
We're not going to ignore it.
Yeah.
And are we? Uh, can I hand on heart say that we can police everything? I don't think we can, but we could do our damnedest.
Yeah.
And it goes. There's lots of stuff on social at the moment about the people from a lack of the lack of regulation in regards to the plumbing industry. And and that's part of that, isn't it? It's part of that process about making sure that the people who are going into people's houses have got the right products,
Mm.
and the right qualifications. And we are a little cog in helping to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could be a big guy because you're part of the dissemination piece, aren't you? I mean, one of the issues is um, you got some really good engineers, for instance, but there's some things they don't know. So the
Mhm.
challenge is well, how do we get them to know this stuff? Because one of the big changes in our industry was early 80s we transitioned from an employed industry to sort of a sole trader industry. So the dissemination of knowledge is to all these sole traders out there is quite a difficult piece.
Yeah.
So they and like your builder's been in the industry for 30 years, cracking builder in doing what he's really a specialist at. He's obviously connected with a couple of gas boiler engineers that he probably regularly uses. Might even have someone employed that does that. But it's how do you get information to all these what can sometimes be quite a heterogeneous bunch, massive bunch of people out there that are going into people's homes. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of tradespeople that are constantly going into people's homes every day. And to police them is also very hard. I mean, obviously, everyone always talks about this thing. Well, there needs to be more stringent. You should have regulations and then be able to police them. But that is such a hard thing to do, and that's why back in the day we went to sort of competent person schemes because building control didn't have the people to go and inspect everyone's hot water cylinder they put in or boiler, but they just didn't have you didn't have the manpower or people power. And that's one of the reasons why the competent person scheme came in. While my head's thinking, as it usually does, I'm thinking, wonder if Beta Teach and Store could actually do a little one pager that I don't know, engineers could hand out to their builder or something. They could say, well, they do work. These are the facts why they do work, or a case study. Um, Something that just helps people because it's sometimes it's hard to get information across. So sometimes some engineers will find it easy to chat to their local builder and get some information across. And other times there might be some pushback, and some people just don't bother with the
Yeah.
communicate. But it's such an interesting thing, that thing, because it does affect who's going to have this stuff and who's going to put it in.
No, it does. It does. I mean, it goes back to that. We can no people don't work in isolation. Anything that anyone does, it affects something else. It affects another part of the build or the project or whatever you're doing. There's very few things happen completely like in complete isolation, and I think that we've got to be comfortable with the fact that there needs to be a bit of a knowledge sharing between people who are working on a project, whether it's a house or a local authority project or whatever it may be. Um, Hopefully, we can help a bit of that.
Yeah, definitely. And at the show, one of the things I'm going to be doing at the show, obviously, my podcast called Beta Talk, and I'm all about helping sort of disseminate the voice of engineers, so that my friends in sort of government can hear what their concerns. And I'm doing this thing with, I've partnered up with Lawfully, and they do this. We're doing this thing where people can literally speak into a device,
Yeah,
and it
that's
records it,
right.
and then the artificial intelligence will analyze. So it's a bit like the survey I did last year, and then I had Nestor on my live audience podcast I did at the show, and we did a
Yeah,
big survey. But even that survey, I had lots of prizes. I had about 40 prizes involved in it. But engineers still have to sit down half an hour at their computer and type stuff in, which is a big chore for them. Whereas
yeah,
now they can just be at the show and literally waffle on like I do into a microphone, and it's all
yeah,
captured. And
yeah.
sentiment analysis will run through it, and so that's a really interesting thing we're going to be doing with you guys this year.
Yeah, no, in fact, that was all talked about this morning, about what we're going to do. I think one of my colleagues has got a call with you at some point this week, or someone lovely. I don't know.
Yeah, well, your fabulous editor, Joe, I'm chatting with tomorrow, and also a big shout out
Excellent.
to Paula because Paula's doing a fantastic job. Paula is. You got some fantastic people. Lucy, obviously, I know,
Yeah,
who's sort of more on the elemental side, I think now, isn't she,
that's
Lucy?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, some great people there. And you got Joe, my friend was the editor at HVP. He's now with you guys, isn't he?
Oh, Mr. Dart. Yes. Yeah. 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 A good signing. A very good signing.
Mike, it's been wonderful having you on the show. We are obviously going to hook up with each other very soon in the next few weeks.
Yes, indeed.
We'll probably have a few drinks, knowing us two, and probably a nice meal. Thanks ever so much for coming on the show and talking about your own
Sure.
heat pump and the installer show.
Good man. Thanks, Nathan.
Cheers, buddy.